go ahead and get started. We have folks participating remotely all around the country this morning, so we want to get started with NIFA Listens, Investing in Science and Transforming Lives. So what a wonderful morning in the farm to fork capital, as I understand it, here in Sacramento. My name is Jeanette Thurston. I work for the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and we welcome you today. Before we get started, just a few items. We do have refreshments at the back of the room. There are restrooms outside to the right. And we also have agendas if you didn't pick one up. So to get started, a little bit of background on myself. I work for the Office of the Director, but I've actually been with USDA for 17 years. It's gone by really fast. Right out of grad school, I went to the University of Arizona. I got my undergraduate and graduate degrees, go Wildcats. And then I took a job with the intramural research branch of the USDA, Agricultural Research Service. I was there for 8 years. I then decided to join NIFA as a national program leader in food safety. And then just a few years ago, I decided to join the Office of the Director as a science program and analysis officer. So I'm joined here today by several of my NIFA colleagues, and Dr. Mukarab Qureshi will give a short presentation and introduce our colleagues here in just a few moments. To give a little background, so this is the third NIFA Listen session that we've had this year. Very excited about these sessions. The first one was held in Kansas City. The second one was last week in Atlanta, and here we are in Sacramento, California today. And next week we'll be in Greenbelt, Maryland. So if you're able to participate in person, that's fantastic. It's also fantastic if you can participate with us remotely. And we're asking for input to two questions. These questions are, what is your top priority in food and agricultural research, education, and extension that NIFA should be addressing? And what are the most promising science opportunities for advancement of food and agricultural sciences? And we're hoping to hear from our stakeholders all across the country on their input to these two questions. So we're asking for input not only through these in-person sessions, but also online. And Dr. Qureshi will have a slide that will show the web address and how to apply and submit your comments online. We'll be collecting those comments until December 1st. Okay, so I have a little bit of logistics for our day today. I'll be your bus driver taking us on this tour today. We have quite a few speakers lined up. We're going to try to stick to that agenda. However, we're really flexible too. So if somebody's late or isn't able to participate, I'll just drop down to the next speaker on the agenda. Also, you might notice that our talks today end right around 1:40. That means we have a lot more slots for folks who would like to give their comments but weren't able to register. We'll have that opportunity, and if you could go outside and make sure you just give us your title and your affiliation and your name, and I'll make sure I'll be able to introduce you today after lunch. So we have a break, we have a lunch, and we have another break this afternoon. Our first break will occur right around 10:10 this morning. Before that, the folks that are in the room, we'd really like to have a picture taken with all of us that are participating here today. So before you grab your refreshments, if you don't mind, and allow us to take a picture of all of us together, that would be great. We will have lunch. Lunch is on your own, beginning at noon, and then we'll reconvene in this room at 1 o'clock. We have several talks after lunch. So each speaker will get up to 10 minutes to give their comments on those two questions or anything else they'd like to tell NIFA. So I'll be the one giving you your warning, your 5-minute warning, your 2-minute warning, and then if I stand up, that means I'm reaching for the hook to pull you off the stage. So please make sure you speak up here at this podium. I know I'm one of those people who's really animated and can't stand being tied to this podium, but we kind of need you to do that because we are webcasting this live, and we're also recording this presentation as well. Speaking of which, if you missed the first two sessions, those are recorded, and you can watch those online on our website. So again, we were in Kansas and Atlanta prior to today. And next week, we'll be in Greenbelt, Maryland. And today's presentation, as well as next week's presentation, will be available online on the NIFA website. Okay, I guess the other thing that I'd like to make sure everybody has their cell phones off. If you do get a phone call, please take a walk outside and carry on the conversation out there. So I think I'm going to start with Sunny's presentation, Sunny's message. So our director, Dr. Sunny Ramaswamy, provided a message for you all to hear today. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us. If we can go ahead and put that up, that would be great.
Hello, my name is Sunny Ramaswamy. I'm the director of the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to what we refer to as NIFA Listens. This is an opportunity for you to be personally involved in telling us where we need to be investing our resources in regards to the research, extension, and teaching endeavors that NIFA supports and the work that you undertake at your institutions. We are offering this opportunity for in-person input, and if it turns out that you've got additional thoughts that you want to share with us, you could certainly go to our website, nifa.usda.gov/NIFA listens. Again, nifa.usda.gov/NIFA listens. And you have the opportunity to provide additional input through the 1st of December of 2017. I can guarantee you that all this input that's going to be provided by you in person or through our website, I'd encourage you to also talk to your colleagues that have not participated here and tell them to also provide input. We're going to take all of this input and analyze the information that's been provided to us and incorporate that into the priorities that are going to be investing in over the next many, many years. I want to thank you for participating in this very important effort, and look forward to engaging with you now and in future as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry about the not being able to see Dr. Ramaswamy there at the beginning, but a great message. So I'd like to now bring Dr. Mukarrab Qureshi to the front. He is one of NIFA's deputy directors at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, and he's going to give you a little bit of background on the agency, as well as introducing my NIFA colleagues who joined us here today.
Thank you, Jeanette, and good morning, everybody. We are here in Sacramento doing our third NIFA Listens external stakeholder session. And before I start giving some very brief opening comments, I would really like to introduce my NIFA colleagues here so that you get to know who they are, what their administrative responsibilities are, and also what their subject matter expertise are, so that during the break we can commingle and have some intellectual conversation. So first, let me invite Dr. Louis Tupas.
Good morning. I'm Louis Tupas. I'm the Deputy Director for Bioenergy, Climate and Environment at the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. I assumed this role in 2014, so I'm fairly new. I've been with NIFA and its predecessor, CSRES, since 2004, so I moved up the ranks. I am a microbial ecologist and a geochemist by academic training, and I spent 12 years of my academic career at the University of Hawaii. And I'm really glad to have this opportunity to speak with you, especially because this is the Western region, and I am the NIFA liaison to the Western region, both for all for research, education, and extension. So this is my crowd. And we'd really like to hear from you and to really engage in these kinds of events so that we can do better in the way we invest the funds that are provided to us and to receive your input for our strategic planning. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Louis. Jeff Steiner.
Thank you, Mukarrab. I'm Jeff Steiner. I'm Division Director for Plant Production in the Institute of Food Production Sustainability. We cover the range of production and systems challenges that agriculture faces: animals, plant production, plant protection, and various information and other technology solutions. I've been with NIFA for about 2 years. Prior to that, I was with Colorado State University, and before that, 25 years with the Agricultural Research Service. I'm a Californian, but I'm an OSU alum, so go Beavers. Glad to see Oregon State represented here. And welcome again. Thank you for participating in this very important event that we're doing.
Thank you, Dr. Steiner. Kelly?
Good morning. My name's Kelly Sprudy. I've been with NIFA for 1 year, and what my role is I'm in part of the communication staff. So my job is to tell your story. And we do that in a very unique and interesting ways. We have a few platforms that we do that on. You've probably seen 2 of our electronic newsletters, Fresh from the Field or NIFA Update. And if you haven't, I will tell you how to subscribe to those and get your communications staff or department directors to subscribe to those, because we use your successes, NIFA-funded science successes, in our annual reports, in those Fresh from the Field newsletters, as well as the NIFA Update. My role at NIFA as the communications staff is both internal manager of communications as well as stakeholder communications manager. So those important information that you need to know, especially if you want to subscribe to any of those topics, is to go to nifa.usda.gov. If you want to know about the fresh part, please go to our website again and put a hashtag on there and go to, make sure I get this right. I believe it's just a hashtag fresh. And you can go directly to that website. Also, the website for the impacts is, again, nifa.usda.gov, and that's a / with impacts. And if you're not following us on social media, please follow NIFA at USDA_NIFA, and then use the hashtag NIFA impacts to tell your story. We collect all of those stories through those resources so that we can help share your science. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it very much. As you see, we are here simply for the purpose of listening to you, and we look forward to listening to all the presentations which are scheduled this morning. Just brief overview of who we are. NIFA, as you know, is U.S. Department of Agriculture's extramural science funding agency. We are part of our USDA mission called REE, Research, Education, and Economics Mission Area. Other partners in REE mission area are Agriculture Research Service, National Agriculture Statistical Service, as well as Economic Research Service and the National Ag Library. NIFA funds activities in all 3 areas of research, education, and extension and outreach. As you know, our portfolio is almost $1.5 billion, so we are hoping today through these listening sessions that we will have your feedback and comments, not only research specific, but on our entire portfolio of research, education, and extension as well. We collaborate with leading scientists, organizations, institutions, entities such as you to get feedback so that we can align NIFA's programs and offerings with what is important to you all. And we believe that through these type of scientific discoveries, we can certainly make a difference across the country and around the globe. NIFA sets its budget, or sort of gets its marching orders, from the Congress of the United States. I'm sure you all know what Farm Bill is. Farm Bill contains all the legislative authorities and the granularities which sort of tell us what the priorities are important to the Congress for us to implement. We also look towards guidance from our Secretary of Agriculture, and by the way, I bring greetings to you from our Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, as well as my own Associate Director of the programs, Dr. Murr Broussard, who could not be here with us today, but he oversees the 4 program institutes in NIFA. So we get guidance from Secretary of Agriculture as well as from Office of the Science and Technology Policy in the White House, what the senior administration thinks are important priorities in food, agriculture, natural resources, and human dimensions, which go along with production agriculture. We also solicit stakeholder input. Within NIFA, as you well know, that we have top-notch scientists who serve in the capacity of national program leaders as well as program specialists. These are our program staff who are on daily basis tuned to what is important in their particular subject matter area. They do PD meetings, they attend professional society conferences, they do listening sessions and webinars of their own so that they can keep abreast of what is important for the portfolio they're managing. So we listen to them as well as we listen to the external stakeholders. As Jeanette was saying, this is our third external stakeholder session. And the idea really is that we can get a very broad overarching feedback from you all, what you think is important for you, for NIFA to consider. And at the end of the day, we hope that all of these feedback and inputs would help us determine what type of budget priority requests we should make in the years to come. Also, I think it's important for us to know what programs are working good for us, what programs are really mission critical, not only for us, but for you as well. But at the same time, what programs NIFA should not consider as priority anymore. In other words, should we move on? Have those programs done their job? Are they now being redundant? Or you know, there are new priorities within that topic area that NIFA ought to consider. So we look forward to hearing from you on those aspects as well. So as Jeanette said, there are two very broad overarching questions we have floated. The first question is really, what are your top priorities in food and agriculture research, extension, and education that NIFA should consider? And the second really is, what are the most promising science opportunities for advancement of food and agriculture sciences? So again, very broad, very overarching, and we're going to be recording these ideas and suggestions you have, and we will take these suggestions back and then, as I said earlier, would make sure that we consider these suggestions as most valuable when we craft our future NIFA priorities and funding initiatives. We have a website, NIFA USDA gov/NIFA listens. Please go to that website, and also there would be opportunity for us to continue to make these comments. As I said, gaps, informing priorities, determining what programs are redundant, and combining these NIFA employees in an internal listening sessions and priorities and ideas and suggestions we've got. Hopefully, we will be able to further strengthen our science emphasis areas, which determine what programs NIFA is funding. Continuing the investment in science, investing in science to transform lives initiative. We do have electronic venue for your input as well, which would continue till December 1st. So after today's listening session, if you go back and think, wow, you know, we should have said this and we should have said that, or your other colleagues may consider a few things which you might have missed, there is still an opportunity for you all to provide your input through electronic mode. And as Jeanette was saying, this is our third listening session, and the fourth one would be in Washington metropolitan area, which would be Greenbelt, Maryland. So we look forward to seeing our colleagues in that region, that part of the country as well, which essentially would cover the entire Northeast area. So again, thank you so very much. This is so important for us that you took the time and came all the way to this listening session to share your wonderful ideas with us. We will certainly get back to you. These web recordings, as well as the transcripts, as well as the overarching synthesis, which we will do post these listening sessions. We will post that on the website so that you all know what not only people in this region have said, but people across the country have said in terms of advisement to NIFA as we set our priorities. So I look forward to your presentations, and I'll now hand the podium back to Dr. Jeanette Thurston, and we look forward to the day.
All right, thank you, Dr. Qureshi. All right, so some of my colleagues wanted me to fill the kind of the dead silence with jokes. There's a reason why I became a microbiologist. So I'm actually going to ask some trivia questions of you. And since we're a little bit ahead of time, you're going to have to entertain me with this. So the first one is, what federal agency is the People's Department? And NIFA people can't talk about this. The People's Department. Oh, come on. USDA, that's right. Fantastic. Come on, that was an easy one. You guys all need to go back and get some more coffee because they get harder as the day goes on. Okay, so, we're supposed to start at 9, but Gene, are you ready to provide your comments? Nice. And Gene is always ready. You know why? Because he's a wildcat. So it's my pleasure to introduce Gene Giacomelli. All right. From the University of Arizona, College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Gene.
Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you, everyone. Dr. Qureshi, thank you for organizing this opportunity. This is a good opportunity to be here, and I look forward to this discussion. Yeah, go Wildcats, although at the moment I have to say I'm local at UC Davis doing a sabbatic leave, so we have to spread out a little bit. This will be the first stop of the bus tour that I understood that we're on today, and I'll be your tour guide. My name is Gene Giacomelli. I am a professor in the Biosystems Engineering Department at the University of Arizona. I'm also the director of the Controlled Environment Agriculture Center, also at the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at the University of Arizona. My background is engineering, but also horticulture. I like to think myself as an engineer who appreciates plants, not only just to eat, but what they can do for us, what they do for production agriculture. But the first stop is in controlled environments. CEAC, the Controlled Environment Ag Center, is a group of scientists and engineers that work together on education, on research, on outreach for the development of food production systems in controlled environments. A greenhouse is one example of such, and we have worked on producing the traditional tomato, lettuce, cucumber, pepper crops, plus many unique crops in terms of hops, in terms of strawberries. We're looking to blueberries and other berry crops as well. Along the way, there's been other unique applications. Controlled environments can produce crops almost anywhere at any time, and we've had demonstrations of facilities working at the South Pole in Antarctica inside the research center there to provide food for the scientists. We also are in the midst of a project for NASA to produce food on other planets, such as when we arrive at Mars, at some time in the near future, we hope. The greenhouse, however, is here in production on Earth. If you enjoy fresh market tomatoes, you probably had a 60% chance that tomato you ate came from a controlled environment. And that is to provide the temperature, humidity, light, carbon dioxide, and the nutrition to make a healthy plant, to make a healthy product for us to eat. As an engineer, I appreciate the fact that in a controlled environment, we can maintain the aerial environment around the plant to what we need it to be to optimize its growth. Simultaneously, we can also control the root zone of the plant using hydroponic systems. Not true water culture all the time, but soilless culture to provide the nutrition for the plant to be healthy. All of these offer opportunities to the most recent applications in urban agriculture. I see this as the most unique time in the history of the world where people, young people, old people, have the opportunity who have never been in production agriculture to get into production agriculture. You don't need Grandpa's North 40 anymore. You can start out in a little corner in a garage. Why not? Top priorities that I'd like to leave with you today is controlled environments for producing food for all peoples at all economic levels and in all locations around the country or countries. You have done much with the SCRI, the Specialty Crops Research Initiative, and we appreciate that, and the efforts that have come to develop the high tunnel industry in the U.S. The high tunnel is not the fully controlled environment. It is a good start, and I believe that the current producers of production agriculture in the field for vegetable crops will be transitioning, using that as a complement to their production in their open field agriculture, because greenhouses will not replace open field agriculture in any way. They will complement that. And we need more efforts developed along those lines to extend from high tunnels to fully controlled environments. And in looking at that, we can suggest that the promising science and engineering activities that could occur to enhance this further are to develop new varieties, to improve their productivity, to improve their nutritional value of the vegetable and other crops that can be grown in controlled environments, to produce crops without the need or an excessive need of pesticides, so develop, as it has been, the integrated pest management programs, to recycle and reuse the water and the nutrients that are provided to the plant, and not to distribute those into the environment, but to make efficient use of water and nutrients. An example being irrigated lettuce in the field. It has about 10 times the amount of water needed per head of lettuce compared to a recirculating nutrient system in a controlled environment greenhouse. Then there is the question of organics and using organic fertilizers in hydroponics. That needs additional work and study. We can reduce food waste in controlled environments because of the fact that 95% pack out or better of crops grown in controlled environments are typical. And even the 5% is still edible, very good product. Engineering, developing systems that are monitored and controlled to provide the environment that is necessary for the plant, and to even predict the quality of the plant or some difficulties that the plant may be getting into in their environmental situation. Along that lines then, urban agriculture I mentioned, so these are specific applications to solve food and nutrition and plant food quality problems. Transplant systems are another area that can improve the production of field agricultural products. Transplants produced in the greenhouse, grafted transplants, these studies can focus on improving the capability to take the product, the crop, out into the field and grow them in the more traditional way. And then finally, we expect that food and food quality to improve the social network of communities, to improve their health, and to, in essence, have everyone enjoy what we come to appreciate of the quality of the products that can be produced in all of production agriculture, but particularly in off-season times in controlled environment agriculture. With having said that, I'd just like to conclude that there are a number of universities around the country and around the world, but most recently in the U.S. around the country, Several have engineering aspects associated with their plant science studies. Ohio State University, Rutgers University, certainly us at the University of Arizona. But there are many more focusing on the plant science aspect. Michigan, Indiana, North Carolina, Florida, Texas A&M, and UC Davis. That's why I'm here, in part. So with that, I'll say that I am not speaking for all of my colleagues, but I know that they have similar interests and expectations as we move into the future, and we look forward to that as well. Thank you very much.
So Jean was early, and yep, Jean, you want to stay up here just one moment? Anybody have any questions for Jean? We have a few moments for a question or two.
Yes, sir.
What's the kind of workforce that we need to focus on to achieve that vision that you have?
We need students that have an appreciation for plants, not just because they look pretty and they taste good, but to understand the biology behind growing plants. And that is developing now, many people who have not had agricultural backgrounds. But we also need students who are technically oriented, engineering students, the ability to put things together in a practical way, as our agricultural farmers have been doing for many generations, but now in a certainly a highly technical situation where large investments in systems need to be operated properly to get the return on those investments, to get the yields that we expect, and to reduce the resource inputs, such as water and nutrients, and still get those yields. So education is key, and I'm sorry I didn't mention that during the heart of my talk. Yes?
Would you agree that one of the big challenges in this area is to move from
I'll repeat the question.
the leaf?
Okay.
Thank you. Gail Taylor, UC Davis. Would you agree that one of the big challenges in this area is to move from, you know, the nice leafy crops and one or two other foods that have been grown in these controlled systems to tackle some of the more difficult food crops?
Yeah, that's the fun part. You're talking about flowering and fruiting crops being more challenging. The tomato may be one of the most difficult crops to grow in any controlled environment, and that's been developed and tackled and understood. It can be done. The leafy greens are a very good way to start, lettuces and the microgreens, and the market is very strong for them. However, the market for the flowering and fruiting crops, as that improves beyond tomato, as that improves, those understandings will come. They will be developed in part with support that comes from NIFA, but also from R&D that's been done along the way for the past 20 years or so. Are we good?
Let's give Jean one more round of applause. Okay, so next up, Vicki Miller. Is she in the room? Okay. How about, I apologize, I don't have very good light up here. Katie Panarella? Katie Panarella is here. So one more trivia question for y'all. This is an easy one. What does NIFA stand for? Wow. Does everybody online hear that? Everyone came in unison, the National Institute of Food and Agriculture. Fantastic. Okay, come on up. So I'd like to welcome Katie Panarella, Nutrition, Family, and Consumer Sciences Program and Policy at UC A&R.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Katie Panarella. I'm the Director of Nutrition, Family, and Consumer Sciences Program and Policy with the University of California Division of Agriculture and Natural Resources. I want to welcome you all to California and virtually. We really appreciate NIFA coming out today and giving us the opportunity so close to our home to discuss our food and agricultural research and food and agriculture research and extension priorities. I'm here with several colleagues today that you'll hear from throughout the morning and afternoon. So I'll give a brief introduction of who UCA&R is. For more than a century, California's $47 billion agricultural sector has depended on UCA&R in partnership with our UC campuses for the stream of new technologies and research breakthroughs needed to stay competitive and be responsible stewards of the land. The UCA&R land grant mission is delivered through several hundred academics conducting research on 4 campuses in 9 research and extension centers and through over 50 county offices throughout the state. We work closely with a wide array of partners and volunteers to deliver programs ranging from 4-H positive youth development to FNAP to master gardeners and master food preservers to integrated pest management, the Nutrition Policy Institute, and the Water Resources Institute for California. The UCA&R has a strategic vision for 2025, and this guides the research and extension work of UCA&R. It consists of 5 strategic initiatives, and the one I'll talk about today is called the Healthy Families and Communities Strategic Initiative. This is central to our programs and research serving youth, families, and communities, what we call the human resources programs. This includes 4-H positive youth development, family and consumer sciences, as well as FNAP, and our community development work. Lauren Au is here today from the Nutrition Policy Institute, and she'll be speaking after me on more of the nutrition policy piece within this initiative. So there are 4 issue areas within the Healthy Families and Communities Strategic Initiative: community development and public policy, food literacy and healthy lifestyles, promoting positive youth development, and scientific literacy. To start, community development and public policy was most recently added to this initiative. However, it's work that we've been doing for over a century. It really encapsulates the historic mission of cooperative extension to help local residents gain the power and means to shape their lives, families, and communities and sustain behavior change. The priorities within this issue area are to create public value by catalyzing innovation and community change by providing science-based assistance and building strategic partnerships, informing public policy, and providing focus and direction for community coalitions and projects. Another priority is to promote community capacity building with underrepresented and new cultural audiences and other communities of identity in California. The second issue area is food literacy and healthy lifestyles. We aim to develop this area across the developmental spectrum, from infant to seniors, to promote a culture of health for all Californians. As you know, the landscape of nutrition has broadened over the last decade or so beyond obesity prevention. Not that we are at all finished with addressing obesity prevention, but now it includes creating healthy environments, improving food access, promoting food literacy, reducing food waste, improving food safety, and drawing linkages to chronic disease prevention in the face of so many uninsured, low-income families living in poverty, especially in California with such a high cost of living. Estimates suggest that nutrition and lifestyle-related conditions are responsible for 75% of all healthcare costs and threaten quality of life, function, and emotional well-being. Our priorities in this area are to continue formulating research-based recommendations, but within the broader scope of nutrition, for improving food literacy and physical activity opportunities in counties across California, working with youth and their families, schools, youth-serving organizations, recreation departments, and other community partners. Our second priority is to create and evaluate comprehensive school and community interventions for better health in counties across California. The next 2 issue areas, promoting positive youth development and scientific literacy, look toward 4-H positive youth development as a model for in and out of school time to prepare youth for college and beyond. This looks to using scientific literacy as a driver to increase college and career readiness with underrepresented adults and youth, and at the individual, community, and societal levels. Over 80,000 students don't graduate each year. We need to contribute to building a vibrant and well-educated workforce with the leadership qualities to help build stronger communities. Youth development programs serve as a pipeline directing both rural and urban youth to pursue higher education with the potential for careers in food, agriculture, and environmental management. One potential solution to deepening concerns over access to a trained workforce for the food and agricultural sector is a much broader utilization of 4-H and other associated youth programs. As you can see, the opportunities for effective interventions in these areas are extensive. Integrating across nutrition, agriculture, youth development, parenting, and community development through linking all parts of the A&R network at the campus and community levels is essential. Nurturing these collaborative efforts among colleagues in nutrition, community and child development, sustainable food systems, medicine, nursing, education and science literacy to successfully address issues that directly impact the nutrition and health status of California's population are equally essential. And engaging new populations in all programs that have traditionally may have not been involved in these programs, as well as engaging our small and mid-sized farms and supporting greater consumption of locally grown food. NIFA funding enables A&R's considerable infrastructure and academic expertise to expand, along with the opportunity to pursue new ways of partnering and within and outside of the University of California to develop research-based solutions and realize opportunities for healthier California. Thank you. Sure. Any questions? Yes.
Hi, Katie. Thank
Hi,
you.
Lauren.
I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on 4-H and talk about the science literacy that you're speaking of, like what type of training that entails, and really how are you targeting this underserved population?
Sure. I can speak to that a little bit. It's not my program directly, but I can talk about a little bit how 4-H is looking to expand with their Latino initiative as well as their diversity initiative, and there's tremendous potential for them to partner with FNAP, so we're always looking for ways to engage underrepresented audiences and low-income youth through FNAP has been one example, and so we've partnered on a few different curriculum. Choose Health, Food, and Fitness, Fun and Fitness is one of them out of Cornell. And that is one way that we've tried to engage other low-income audiences to be more involved in 4-H. Anything else? Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Some more notes.
Oh, I think you have my agenda. Yeah. There you go. Okay, well, thank you very much, Lauren. Katie, I'm sorry. Next we have Lauren. So next we have Lauren Au in the audience. She's also from the University of California Nutrition Policy Institute. So let's welcome Lauren.
Thank you. Well, welcome everyone. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Lauren Au, and I'm from the Nutrition Policy Institute at the University of California Division of Ag and Natural Resources. And Katie is one of my colleagues, so she did a great introduction of A&R and sort of the breadth of what we cover. Specifically, NPI is comprised of about 40 staff and students, and we work on various research projects that are funded by multiple funders spanning private foundations to the federal government, including NIFA. Today, I'll give you a really brief background about NPI and the work we do, and I'll discuss our top NIFA priorities and areas that we see are the most promising for the future of nutritional sciences. And the slides work, great. So NPI's mission is to improve nutrition in low-income communities by engaging in research and communication that informs, builds, and strengthens policy. We cover a variety of topics. We focus on food insecurity, obesity, diabetes, and other chronic diseases, high-risk communities, such as low-income or racially diverse communities, and children and families. And we really cover a broad spectrum. We focus on multiple sectors, from the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, specifically SNAP-Ed, to Women, Infants, and Children, or WIC, childcare, schools, and communities. And this is really why I really enjoy working at MPIs, because we cover all of the federal nutrition programs and looking at ways to strengthen and to improve them. So what is our top NIFA priority? It's to increase investment in translational research that examines ways to improve population, nutrition, and health, particularly among the youngest children. Katie mentioned earlier that nearly a quarter of US children are overweight and obese by the time they start kindergarten, and by the time they are adolescents, nearly a quarter of them have elevated blood sugar or blood glucose levels that are indicative of diabetes risk. So there's really an urgency to start before school age. Dietary intake and behaviors tend to track from early age, as early as 1 to 2 years old. So intake is largely established very early on in life. Our first priority area is for the advancement to focus on research that optimizes current investment in federal nutrition programs. Programs such as WIC and childcare have shown success in improving nutrition in young children. However, there needs to be more translational research to understand ways to improve these programs so they can continue to promote healthy food options. We've conducted several studies at the national as well as California level evaluating the effects of changes to the WIC food program that serves many low-income infants, children, and pregnant women. We proved the benefits of changes in the food supplied, and today, children on WIC nationwide are able to eat more fruits, vegetables, beans, and low-fat products. Also, we've conducted 2 randomized trials showing that brief online education in WIC can effectively lead to long-term health behavior changes, such as reducing sodium intake to help prevent chronic diseases. Another example of how evidence-based research can be used to support healthy changes is in the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP. In 2008 and 2012, we conducted statewide surveys to child care centers and family daycare homes in California that showed that CACFP sites provided better nutrition than those not participating in the program. But there was still room for improvement in terms of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and beverages, results that helped inform the 2017 CACFP meal pattern revisions. We conducted another statewide survey in 2016 to identify barriers and solutions to inform the kinds of training and support needed so child care centers and homes are further able to implement the new changes. Our second priority is to investigate how best to align policy, systems, and environmental change interventions with targeted education to produce population behavior change. So Katie mentioned FNEP and SNAP, and those are really including a broad system of environmental change with nutrition education. More than a decade of research has shown that comprehensive changes to physical and social environments, coupled with strategic educational messages, can be effective to improve population, diet, and activity behaviors. However, we still have much to learn about which combinations of what interventions will have the greatest impact and how really to scale them up for success. NPI is evaluating SNAP-Ed funded community change effects in California. These efforts aim to make it easier for SNAP-eligible people to eat healthfully, be more active, and improve their food security status. The interventions are designed to couple nutrition education and community change efforts, and NPI's objective is to better understand the most optimal and feasible combinations of activities to produce behavior changes and improved health outcomes. Finally, our third priority area is to enhance integrated research across the agriculture and nutrition spectrum. Food hubs help farm-to-school programs and food service professionals get good, healthy, local, whole foods to our nation's students. However, evaluation examining scaling up these programs is limited. In Riverside, California, we are working on an innovative model of distributing fresh, locally grown produce via a food hub operated by a large school district. If proven effective, this model could be replicated to develop new markets for specialty crop growers while improving nutrition for low-income communities. This model takes advantage of the whole school infrastructure to buy food and gives small farmers an opportunity to get started. It also develops new markets to growers by bringing produce to small school districts, corner stores, childcare centers, really markets that couldn't do it themselves. And finally, and most importantly, it increases the availability of healthy foods for low-income people. So in summary, our top priority is to increase investment in translational research that examines ways to improve population nutrition and health. The three areas that we see are most promising for future advances in nutrition are focusing on research that optimizes current investments in federal nutrition programs, aligning policy systems and environmental change with education, and finally, enhancing integrated research across the ag and nutrition spectrum. Thank you, that's my contact information, and you're free to email me if you have any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Al and Katie, for the conversation on nutrition. I was wondering if you would just step back a second and explain the difference between calories and nutrition, because I think the USDA traditionally has done a really good job at helping us produce calories more efficiently, right? Wheat, soy, rice, corn, and even if you live in a food desert, you have plentiful access to those products, but not necessarily nutrients or nutrition. So I was wondering if you would just kind of talk about those differences.
That's a good point, kind of talking about what's available in some areas that's not available in others. You know, I will say in some of the work we do, we're really trying to focus on highlighting the nutrient-dense options, and that might be from the example of the food hubs in the schools is trying to bridge those nutrient-dense options to areas that may not have it so readily available. We also try to promote nutrient-dense options in all the federal nutrition programs. And so that's where our nutrition education is really tied in WIC and in SNAP-Ed. In terms of the food supply, that's sort of not our area. We sort of focus on what happens when people are at the grocery store and when they're trying to choose their options and try to make more healthy options and decisions for them. And I think there's another question over there.
Really more of a comment to say that, you know, the work you're doing is absolutely fantastic and necessary, but we have to admit that modern plant breeding largely relates to the calories question, not focused on nutritional content. And there's an absolutely gaping hole that we need to address, which is about densification of nutrient from crops. And, you know, we can do all the interventions we like and behavioral changes, but we have an opportunity to increase the basic value, the nutrient value of food. And I think that's really important to, you know, continue to acknowledge and make sure it doesn't slip away.
Yes, thank you for that comment. I think we're all set.
I have a clarifying question on translational, that your recommendation for about translational research. Are you referring more towards we should be investing more in the translation of the research, current research, or to invest in the research of translation?
That's a really great question. So the best example that I have is in NIFA's programs, their childhood obesity grants, is where it's more applied. So trying to take the information from, let's say, the dietary guidelines for Americans and making them practical and feasible in low-income communities. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Lauren. So is Vicki Miller, was she able to join us? No, okay. Scott, are you ready? Scott out there? All right, Scott. All right, so we have Dr. Scott Reed from Oregon State University.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, I'm Scott Reed. I'm trained as a forester and an economist. I'm here today at the request of the Extension Committee on Organization and Policy, ECOP, that represents the Cooperative Extension section of the Board on Agriculture Assembly within the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. My position at Oregon State University is as Vice Provost for University Outreach and Engagement, and I serve as Director of the OSU Extension Service. In that capacity, I'm active nationally in developing leadership, marketing, and communication to advance programs, private resource development, and innovations that allow our partnerships to honor the role of engagement in co-creating solutions to increasingly wicked issues. Most recently, I've driven additional thinking at Oregon State towards the role of innovation in stimulating new ways of thinking to enhance our collective ability to serve society. It speaks volumes that NIFA is listening to stakeholders about their top priorities for food and agricultural research, extension, and education. Thank you for investing time and energy in this process. As you know, the stakes are high, with our world's population heading for 9 billion by 2050. And beyond this sheer volume of additional food that will be required, we're challenged by increasingly complex circumstances. As America becomes even more urbanized, we see that people are disconnected from production practices, leading to questions about environmental implications of farming practices and more preference for locally produced food. Climate change and increasingly variable weather continue to bring challenges to the availability of and competition for water, the emergence of invasive pests, and continual adaptation of production practices. It is in this context that I respond to NIFA's two questions. The first question asks about top priorities. ECOP engaged the entire cooperative extension section answering this question, which identified 5 strategic focus areas. Nutrition, health, and wellness is the first one. Second, positive youth development. 3, water. 4, food production and food security. And 5, community development. Now, each of these areas provides an enormous range of problems for NIFA to consider, as well as the challenge of apportioning resources among competing needs. In this respect, I urge your mindfulness of the role and specific strengths of capacity and competitive funds. As you've heard from others, capacity funds lever state appropriations that match the federal allocation, local funding, and volunteer time that dramatically expands the working power of federal funds. These resources provide a base of fundamental talent for unique state-by-state stability, responsiveness, and ability to seek competitive funds. One great example of the use of capacity funds is our 4-H Youth Development Program, the nation's leading such effort that places 6 million young people on a trajectory to success. These same youth frequently matriculate in NIFA-supported educational programs and become lifelong learners and leaders that help advance the role of science-based, knowledge-driven innovations in food and fiber systems. I hope that NIFA recognizes the distinctive leadership role that we play together around positive youth development. Competitive grants round out a well-functioning funding ecosystem by providing in-depth long-term research and extension approaches that provide the foundation for science-based curricula and community engagement. Here in the Western United States, the context for NIFA's programs is unique. Over 80% of our population lives in urban centers, separated by expanses of sparsely populated rural areas. The public owns nearly half of this land base that covers 5 time zones, shares borders with Canada and Mexico, and includes diverse ecosystems of Great Plains, high mountains, arid deserts, rainforests, frozen tundra, tropics, and miles of coastal areas. The Western Extension Directors Association encourages NIFA to be a thought leader in science-based decision-making in policy areas, such as energy, climate, and coastal issues, priorities that transcend boundaries of states, programs, and demography. Of special value to the West are issues related to fire, water, climate change, population trends, and invasive pests. The Western directors have filed a written report to NIFA, and I call your attention to the few of the points made there. Extension should be considered a component of all NIFA grants, including funding awards with a basic research emphasis. It's time to flex our positive youth development muscle. Even more, 4-H and youth development could be integrated into AFRI in some meaningful, productive way. SNAP-Ed funding should be considered for NIFA's direct delivery by extension as a part of a comprehensive nutrition educational program. NIFA should support broadband initiatives for underconnected areas in states and territories. NIFA should defer to institutional policies and interpretations of uniform guidance, including but not limited to the frequency of time and effort certifications. And finally, planning and reporting processes must allow for state-level flexibility and innovation, specifically that capacity funds not be reported by project or program. Many institutions are not equipped to report in this way, and to do so would have burdensome financial, programmatic, accounting, and human resource implications, diverting time and money away from valued research and extension work. The second question addresses science opportunities. Some have signaled the dangers that I agree with in what is regarded as the delegitimization of science, especially as it relates to divisive public issues, such as climate variability. Thus, through peer-reviewed scholarship, NIFA's army of scientists can provide objective insights into tackling meta-evaluation of what's regarded as big data and big data sets. Such an approach honors knowledge wherever it exists, while vetting its application in designed and systematic processes. Secondly, few contemporary problems are defined by a single discipline, thus requiring that NIFA, along with the university system, develop methodologies that integrate perspectives in transdisciplinary ways. This is especially important at the intersections of food production and healthy populations. Global food production is another deserving area for science. Other countries are investing equal or more resources into these same issues, and NIFA can play a role in optimizing the development and application of science, especially in developing countries. In the face of changing landscapes, we need resilient agricultural production systems that can efficiently adapt to local circumstances. Our NIFA university partnership is uniquely positioned to draw upon our distributed strengths. Finally, NIFA has the ability to maintain an emphasis on a national issue until it is solved. One example is antimicrobial resistance in its many dimensions. By seeking and applying long-term solutions, NIFA's role as a public service agency is strengthened in developing healthy ecosystems, healthy economies, and healthy people. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide this input.
Thanks, Scott, for your organized thoughts on that. Just from your perspective, you know, for the broader nasty problems that have to be attacked by larger integrated projects, how do you see the balance between foundational investments in smaller grants for faculty versus the larger integrated type of grants and approaches?
Yeah, yes and yes. the way you frame your question points out the value of doing both kinds of work. I particularly like to see, individual PI focused work, especially at the front end of their careers when they are establishing their reputation and their respective strengths, and become recognized as powerful team members subsequently in larger, more integrated funding.
Thank you, Scott. Great presentation, great ideas. Thank you so much. I'd like you to expand a little bit on your idea of including or incorporating 4-H and PYD into AFRI. Can you expand on that thought a little bit, please?
I offer it more as a concept that deserves some additional conversation and thinking about where it might specifically fit. But I continue to observe our national leadership position and the way in which our positive youth development program, largely 4-H, but not only 4-H, is embedded in unrestricted capacity funds and sometimes not held out. At Oregon State, about 20% of our Smith-Lever appropriation finds its way into our positive youth development program that's more than matched by state appropriations. And if you ramp that up nationally, I suspect we have a $200 or $300 million positive youth development program that's not often kind of rolled up and given that kind of attention.
Okay, so we're pretty far ahead. Any chance Vicky's able to join us? Okay, so, all right, so you're gonna have to deal with my trivia again. So what president signed the Morrill Act into law? That's right, Abraham Lincoln. And I actually have candy up here. I should be throwing candy at you as you get these correct. And actually, just to follow up on Scott's nice comments, one thing that you're all very well aware of is that public investment in agricultural research has resulted in very large economic benefits with annual rates of return between 20 and 60%. So I thought that was kind of a nice fact to share with you today. All right, so one more since we have a little bit of time. And I just learned about this morning. Anybody know what a Waterloo boy is? You really will get a candy if you tell me what this is. It's the very first, Dr. Tupas knows. It's the very first tractor that was put into production. They only sold a few. But the reason why I stumbled upon that, for those of you who might be in the DC area in the next year, our own Smithsonian's National Museum of American History has the American Enterprise Exhibition for 2018, and they're calling it the Year of the Tractor. So you can see a 1918 Waterloo tractor at the Smithsonian Museum. So I thought that was kind of a nice little factoid to share with you, and I'm sure all of us are going to journey on over to the Smithsonian Museum to see that tractor. Okay, so we are ahead of time, and is Nina Ikawa, help me on your last name. Ijikawa. Okay, so we have Nina here with us today from Berkeley Food Institute, University of California at Berkeley. Let's welcome Nina.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, and thank you, NIFA staff and experts for coming all the way out west. We really appreciate it, and we're really delighted to share information with you today. My name is Nina Ichikawa. I am the Policy Director at the Berkeley Food Institute, and we are an interdisciplinary research institute established in 2014 as a collaboration between 7 schools and colleges on the UC Berkeley campus. Those schools are the Colleges of Natural Resources, Public Health, Law, Public Policy, Journalism, Business, and the College of Environmental Design. So in terms of interdisciplinary research, we are established with that as our forefront mission. We fund research on our Berkeley land-grant campus in collaboration often with our UCA and our colleagues. We fund undergraduates, graduate students, ladder rank faculty, and groups of faculty working on key key issues in food systems. I could talk for this whole time about what we do, but I tried to take the question very literally about our one top priority in food and agriculture. But I encourage everyone to look at our website at food.berkeley.edu to find out more, because we are working on truly a tremendous array of food systems issues, food and agriculture systems issues in both the natural and social sciences. But based on our work and hearing from experts in the field, stakeholder groups whom we regularly engage around the country and around the world, we've really come to a conclusion that we want to share with NIFA today, being that a top priority for us right now is research on labor. This is really a key issue here in California, and this is included but not limited to the impacts of immigration policy on farming communities, the growth and possibly uneven enforcement of the H-2A program, housing for farm workers, health care and education for farm worker families, and how shifting regulatory and industry trends have impacted farm and food workers. It is undisputable that the entire agriculture economy is undergoing transformation right now due to a variety of factors, including political, economic, and environmental. It really troubles us that immigration and farm workers are being used, frankly, as a political football when we find that for agriculture is suffering. Agriculture and food businesses are suffering as a result. Thus far, agricultural labor research has been largely focused on technological adaptations to labor challenges. While important, technology cannot and will not be the only solution. We will always need humans to bring American agricultural prosperity to the world. How much will these humans be paid? According to UC Davis agriculture economist Philip L. Martin, there is little relationship between farm wages and consumer prices for fresh fruits and vegetables. So, why are average wages for a full-time agricultural worker in California at around $16,500 per annum? What citizenship rights are agricultural workers entitled to after performing what is often very dangerous and difficult work over a lifetime? What about the conditions for workers in emerging industries like grocery delivery and meal kits? This type of research is very difficult to fund, despite its importance to the agricultural and overall economy. 1 in 5 private sector employees in the US work in the food system. Here in California, our $34 billion fruit, vegetable, and horticulture industry are particularly reliant on farm labor, disproportionate to other states and to the nation as a whole. We propose that NIFA greatly increase its work on employment and work in order to protect the long-term prosperity, stability, and safety of our farms, ranches, dairies, and fisheries. Finally, just to conclude, many people have termed this, and actually our Secretary of Agriculture, Karen Ross, has talked about the dignity of farm labor and professionalization, really she came to Berkeley about a year ago, and I was surprised and impressed that about 2/3 of her talk was on this issue, and that we need a deep dive to consider what is the future of farm work, and how can we honor those that are doing it, professionalize it, and give it a pathway towards the future for those people that want to continue working in it, and integrate that into our educational system. So that is what we're working on. We have a few research projects underway right now, but frankly, the research funding landscape is pretty difficult. So I'd be open to any ideas from USDA and other government entities on how we can address this better. So I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you again for giving us time today. Yes, please.
So I am interested in a little bit in the history of your consortium. So could you please expound on how you got everyone in? That's a very interesting combination of institutes within Berkeley to come together to work on these issues. Can you give me a little bit of history on that?
Sure.
Forgot my second question, but let's start with that.
We can come back to it, yeah. Well, Berkeley is, many people don't know Berkeley is actually the original land grant of the UC system. So we've had, biophysical and social science research on ag going on for centuries now, since our establishment. And really just energy was growing to have an interdisciplinary place to work on food systems. I actually was an undergraduate at Berkeley a few decades ago and put together my own major, interdisciplinary major, but it was because Berkeley does allow interdisciplinary study, but there was not a institutional home. So credit to the deans and the school leadership, and we actually have those 7 deans sit on our executive committee. They really felt that it was a gap in scholarship in this country. Many of the institutes working on food are either on the public health side or the natural resources side. And we felt it was very important to bring both to the table, as well as law and public policy, because they're so important in our food system. So, not everyone always understands each other, but we try. And that's our dedication to interdisciplinarity. It really emerged out of a landscape analysis of similar institutes around the country and what we felt was needed next. Great.
So what have been your traditional sources of federal or state funding for the projects that you've done?
Great question. Our institute itself is almost entirely privately funded right now. Some of our researchers, we have 150 affiliated faculty, and we have worked with a few of them on both federal and state grants. Some of the grants that they have received and are working on are a Beginning Farm and Rancher Development Program, which we think is fantastic, administered by NIFA. Also AFRI foundational grants, especially the RENRI or BENRI program, which has changed names, but it's also a agroecological holistic approach to ag systems research. Specialty crop research grants, our affiliate faculty have been recipients of. And also, there are other things in the hopper that we're excited to announce soon. But for the most part, actually, the private sector has really stepped up, and we're grateful for that. But we would like to, we'd like to find more interdisciplinary approaches to whole systems research. It was also mentioned by my other colleagues talking about food hubs, farm to school. If we're really looking at different parts of the food chain, certain RFPs can be too narrowly directed. So looking at externalities, environmental, economic, or like we said, immigration law, these other types of externalities can be hard to just put into one research bucket. Thanks.
Thank you for great comments.
Thank you.
Just a comment to engage more students into this enterprise of yours, which is beautifully interdisciplinary. NIFA has a program called REEU. Have you heard of that program?
No.
It's called Research and Extension Experience for Undergraduates.
Oh.
So REEU is a funding which NIFA provides to undergraduates so that they can take advantage of experiential learning through internships, externships, study abroad, going from one institution to another, going from an academic institution to industry or policy or government entities. It's a great program, which I thought I'll bring it up to your attention at this point.
Fantastic, thank you. I will look into that. Well, one that's also related that some of you may not know about, a pilot program that's begun by the UC system is Graduate Students in Extension. So it is a grant program that started at our campus for graduate students, PhD students, to consider careers in extension, and they get a 6-month or 1-year grant to further their research, and they give presentations. They actually invited me to come speak on policy issues, and it's a really exciting pipeline that we are developing. Many students want to work in extension, so we're really excited about that, but adding undergraduate possibilities is really exciting as well.
Hi, Nina. Great comments.
Thank you.
I did want to mention that a lot of your comments focused on immigrant farm labor, but I wanted to note that those of us who teach undergraduate and graduate students in agriculture, that we struggle with the same things. People are really excited about learning agriculture as a profession, but placing them into professional positions where their expertise is recognized and they're paid a fair and living wage. It's an issue that we struggle with at the undergraduate and graduate level as well. People are super excited about learning how to grow their own food, learning how to grow food commercially. At Oregon State University, we have over 200 students that are part of our Organic Growers Club, and we're constantly wondering how can we place them into positions in organic agriculture that will compensate them for their expertise, their knowledge, the contributions that they have to give.
Absolutely. I mean, some of the other, I completely agree. Some of the other research we're looking at, actually we have a major project on land access and individual and structural barriers to land access, because that's a huge issue for students that, you know, have received training and want to go on to own their own farm. So we're very interested in land transition and land access. Completely agree. It's an issue that we need to consider, and many of our students come from farm worker families and do want to bridge their academic expertise with the real world farming expertise that they already have, and we'd like to provide practical job opportunities for them. So thank you for that comment. Well, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Nina. So do we have Michael Lamore? Okay, fantastic. We have Michael Lamore next from the School of Veterinary Medicine, also University of California.
Well, thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to provide remarks from the University of California, Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, and I'd like to thank NIFA for the opportunity for this listening session. The UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine has shaped the field of veterinary medicine from dynamic educational programs to uncovering solutions for emerging diseases of animals and humans, to sharing that knowledge throughout our communities worldwide. The school trains tomorrow's veterinarian and develops leaders in veterinary medical practice, higher education, public health, research, disease control, food safety, environmental protection, and biotechnology. We're global leaders in veterinary medicine. And NIFA is a vital part of our mission and the health, to really advance the health of animals, people, and the environment, which is our mission. Veterinarians are uniquely qualified to be key players in the field of food safety and security, environmental quality, and public health. In the area of ecosystem health, veterinarians are engaged in interdisciplinary research on behalf of the people and the animals. This breadth of involvement enables them to be valuable resources in food safety and security, disease control and prevention, diagnosis, treatment of disease, including those associated with environmental contamination. Essential to the advancement of food animal agriculture are discovery and scholarship focus on management behaviors as well, and practices that impact ecosystem health. In this regard, we identify a top priority efforts to develop a data-driven understanding of how these changes in management practices influence animal health, environmental health, and human health. The most promising opportunities to accomplish this priority are 4 areas I'd like to identify, and then identify also how they link to our NIFA partners. The first one is in innovations and data-driven methods that allow monitoring of antibiotic resistance in field situations, and specifically how these changes in management practices influence animal and human health outcomes. This area is complementary to animal health and disease research programs in NIFA, which promote animal health research at accredited state veterinary schools or colleges or agriculture experimental stations. Monitoring animal health and preventing animal disease outbreaks is vital to the economy and safety of our food supply. Production of healthy livestock ensures a safe food supply and keeps consumer prices stable. So animal disease outbreaks that cost the country millions of dollars due to animal slaughters or trade interruption or subsequent disease eradication efforts are costly. Animal diseases and human health are implications adversely affect the public health, global trade, and the stability of agriculture segment of our economy. And NIFA's programs that support veterinarians and scientists in these efforts to guard these diseases are critical to this effort. In addition, our California Animal Health and Food Safety Laboratory System, which answers in a very potent collaboration with our state Department of Food and Agriculture,
is collaboration and answers through the veterinary school is synergistic to the National Animal Health Laboratory Network, which is vital to this emphasis. The U.S. livestock and food safety sectors, which accounts for more than $100 billion in annual cash receipts, are under continually threat by outbreaks of both foreign and emerging animal disease. And since 2002, the NALMS network is credited with cooperation and linking efforts like we have here in the state of California to NIFA and USDA. This area also is aligned with the Food Animal Resistance Avoidance Database, or FARAD, which is USDA-sponsored service whose primary mission is to help producers and veterinarians prevent and mitigate illegal and harmful residues of drugs, pesticides, biotoxins, and other chemical agents that may contaminate food of animal origin. FARAD collects and analyzes this data in scientifically database, and we have one of the FARAD centers here at UC Davis within our school. This is extremely helpful for helping manage and avoid things like overuse of antibiotics. The second area is increased training opportunities for pre- and postdoctoral students to engage and focus on areas of research. This area is synergistic with the Veterinary Medicine Loan Repayment Program, which is critical to help offset loans for those qualified eligible veterinarians who agree to serve in NIFA-designated veterinary shortage situation areas for up to 3-year periods of time, and that's an extremely important program. As well as the Veterinary Services Grant Program, which is a newer program to relieve veterinary shortages and support veterinary services in rural areas. These grants are competitively basis and are very strong in supportive of this effort for training as well as outcomes of those that are trained. And I would point out that veterinary medicine student population is 80% women currently and represent a highly educated work and STEM workforce. This aligns with our Women and Minorities in Science and Technology Mathematics Grant Program at NIFA. The program is a competitive grants program to support research and also extension projects that will increase participation of women, and I would like to point out that veterinary medicine is poised to supply that workforce. The third area is research to develop effective and comprehensive monitoring and surveillance systems to effectively control foodborne illnesses. This area closely aligns with AFRI's Food Safety Challenge area, which focuses on societal challenges to ensure a safe and nutritious food supply while maintaining our competitiveness in agriculture. So in order to sustain an estimated population of 9 billion people in the world, we'll need to double the production of safe and nutritious food, and this area of research is vital to support that effort. And the final area is control of endemic diseases and the threat of transboundary animal diseases, which is a top priority, including the development of new diagnostic assays for early recognition of pathogens and the development of new vaccine strategies to control the transmission of pathogens from animal to animal, but also animal to people. This area is directly aligned with the AFRI Food Security Challenge area, which focuses on the societal challenge of keeping America's agriculture competitive and also to end world hunger by ensuring the availability and access of safe and nutritious food. By 2050, world food supplies will need to double to match that challenge. The long-term goal is the sustainable increase in agriculture productivity and the availability and accessibility of safe and nutritious food. I would point out that all 4 of these areas that I've mentioned of priorities are all well within and congruent with the Agriculture and Food Research Initiative, or AFRI, the nation's leading competitive grants program, and helps mitigate the impacts of things like climate variability, ensure food safety for food security, and train the next generation of agriculture scientists. I'd like to answer any questions related to that. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad to hear your endorsement about some of the programs you mentioned, especially the NOL program or the VMLRP and the new Veterinary Services Grants Program, as well as FARAD. We take a lot of pride in ensuring that those programs continue for the reasons you have truly mentioned. So I truly appreciate you acknowledging the importance of those programs.
Yeah, it's a very important partnership with the universities and other institutes that are doing this research.
Can you expound a little more on what you are thinking of when you talk about transboundary?
Yes, these are things that don't respect borders. Avian influenza is a classic example. We're using satellite data, Landsat data, to monitor the water supply within California, but also the reflectivity really monitors the wild bird population who comes down on the Pacific Flyway. They don't respect borders. We can't help them do that. But what they do carry is sources of avian influenza, which of course naturally we're very concerned about, as is NIFA for high-path avian influenza, also as a reservoir for human influenza. That would be an example of a transboundary disease.
What about domestically within?
Well, another one would be the threat of things like foot and mouth disease. Foot and mouth disease is, we plan for it. We run a lot of computer-based modeling using surrogates for foot and mouth disease. But we know that we're only one mistake away from having that in this country, and it's of grave concern. So that would be one of the most economically devastating diseases. And currently we're very fortunate in the United States to be free of foot and mouth disease, but that would be another example. All right, thank you very much.
All right, boy, we're ahead of schedule. So how many folks want to take an early break? Oh, Dr. Qureshi, you forgot to introduce yourself. So we're going to let Dr. Qureshi come up right before the break and introduce himself and tell us a little bit about your background. How long have you been at USDA? Where were you before that?
And then invite everybody to break.
And then, before you go to break, actually, I forgot, we all need you up here so we can take a picture of everybody together.
Okay.
So, okay, Dr. Qureshi.
Good. Yeah, I got a message from my team that while they all introduced themselves with their academic and subject matter expertise background, I forgot to do that. I'm also not a federal bureaucrat like some of you might think. I'm a veterinarian, have a Doctor of Veterinary Medicine degree myself, master's in microbiology and PhD in immunogenetics and immunotoxicology. I was on the faculty of a major land-grant university. Can I say the name? Well, I was at Cornell as well as North Carolina State University for, about 20 plus years before I moved to USDA. I was the division director for the animal systems, and now I'm the deputy director of NIFA, where the institute I manage is some of the comments we heard really are very pertinent to the programs which are in my institute. For example, 4-H, we are the headquarters of 4-H. I'm actually wearing a 4-H tie. So hearing about 4-H and PYD was music to my ears. We have another division called Family and Consumer Sciences. We heard a lot about some community and nutrition and health-based priorities, community vitality, healthy living, all of those programs, rural development. We have several programs in the regional rural development centers in my institute. Then the third division which I have in my institute is actually education. Believe me or not, USDA NIFA actually is almost 80% of USDA's formal and non-formal education is housed in NIFA. We have an education portfolio which really spans from K through 20. Some of the things, Dean, you were mentioning, pre-doc and post-doc program, some undergraduate programs I mentioned earlier, but also K through 12 and K through 14, which includes a lot of community colleges. We have more undergraduates in community colleges now than four-year colleges. So that's a tremendous resource for us to tap into, to bring into our mission-related workforce and next generation of science development. Also, a huge portfolio of minority serving institutions, 1890s, 1994s, Hispanic serving institutions, insular area, Alaska Native, Native Hawaiians, all of those portfolios. So NIFA is a very, very programmatically very diverse entity. That's why all the science emphasis areas, we have 9 science emphasis areas, and I can almost guarantee you that all of you who are sitting in this room and listening can see themselves into those science emphasis area. And that was the reason we wanted to cast a very broad net to ensure that we get your feedback on not just one aspect of what NIFA does. Some people mentioned AFRI as our flagship program, true, but our portfolio is $1.5 billion almost, which is research, education, and extension. So we really, really, truly value the feedback we are getting today from you on extension, nutrition and health, culture of health, PYD, competitive programs, capacity programs, veterinary programs, animal health and management, antimicrobial resistance. All these terms are really, believe me or not, are our top priorities already, but hearing from you and how do we go from here forward is what is the challenge we will be sort of tackling with your help. So thank you so much. Is that enough introduction?
That's perfect. Thank you, Dr. Krashe. So for those of you online, we're going to take our break now. We'll be back at 10:30 here in the West. That's 12:30, I believe, Central Time, and 1:30 Eastern Time. So for all the participants here, the best lighting is actually over by the food, so we can get you over by the food. It's going to be hard. You're going to want to touch it, but just wait until we snap a couple quick pictures. Thank you so much.